Hi, everybody.
Okay.
This is Jill with Illuminating Women, and I am bringing to you today another wonderful opportunity. We call these during the COVID-19 our coffee break and connects. And these are wonderful opportunities for us to sharpen our tools in our tool chest and to learn new ways to help us post-COVID to recover from all this hard times that we are going through. And today, I'm really grateful that we have Christine Zomorodian, who is with Gish Consulting. She is also on the Illuminating Women Advisory Circle. She's a powerhouse woman with so much information to share from her heart. And we have a smaller group today because this is part one of a three-part series on LinkedIn. And our first one, the recording didn't take. So Christine was generous enough to join us on Saturday morning. And we do have another person that was able to join us that didn't make the last training. And this is recorded and on the Illuminating Women YouTube channel for anybody to go back to share with other friends. Because at this time, with such this information, oh my goodness, it's a game changer. And everybody that was on the call last time, that's when we went, oh my word, there's so much about LinkedIn we are not using to its full capacity so that we can be seen and heard. So today, Christine's going to repeat part one, and then we will next Wednesday and the following Wednesday at 10:30, same place, same story here. Christine's going to take us a little bit further into other details, and these are do not miss opportunities to learn and grow. So Christine, thank you very much. I welcome you to this place, and as you can see, we are on your LinkedIn page, so please go away and take it. And thank you again, Christine, for your time. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Jill. And no, it's a pleasure to do this and share some of what I've learned over the last 15, 18 years using LinkedIn, and maybe help some women get some ideas generated for how they can use it to suit their needs rather than a one-size-fits-all. So on Wednesday, when we were doing this session, we had sort of an early aha moment related to people thinking that this is really just a platform to go look for a job. And the history of LinkedIn is that it started, the concept was kind of for marketing people to find other people in the marketing and sales space. And they all piled onto LinkedIn, and those are the first people on LinkedIn. And slowly it's grown in adoption, and the tool has changed a lot. Microsoft bought the tool, I want to say about 18 months or 2 years ago, and that's been pushing some changes forward as well. Not all of them are changes that all of us like, but having that kind of power and money behind it is allowing some integrations and things to happen. We'll get to that later. But yeah, LinkedIn now is sort of the go-to place for business social networking. That's the way I would describe it. So if you're trying to build your network professionally, this is the place to be. I know that Facebook has its place and its audience, but in my world, I'd say 30% to 40% of the people I know do not even have a Facebook account, and they don't live there. So if you're looking for people who are kind of business focused specifically, this is definitely a place to be. Okay, so let's walk through a little bit of it. So what we have here displayed is my home page. My home page up here. There's an icon. It's highlighted and it's home. And so when I open LinkedIn, it defaults to the home page, and the home page it's kind of like Facebook, it's kind of not. The center portion here is your news feed. You can see I have a post by Melinda Gates here, and she's showing up in my feed because I follow her, okay? And it's telling me that there's been new stuff posted into my news feed, and if I click here, there's Susan Plan, a woman I know. She's a tech writer in my world, and she's getting kind of prolific about some of her article postings. So I do follow her. Now, something really important here about the news feed is this. See over here, it says sort by, and right now it's set to top. And that is the tool default. And every time you open a browser window to LinkedIn, you're going to be sorted by top. Well, personally, I don't really care about top. Again, there's people who are following trends. That's important if you're following a trend. I am not following a trend. I'm looking for my people. So I click on recent, and it shows me, even if it's not a popular trend, it shows me people that I'm looking at, okay, and following. So Elizabeth Scallon is the CEO of WeWork, and I think she's an interesting person, so I follow her. And so this is what's different about LinkedIn. So if you show here, it's actually the lazy person's social media. That's the way I like to put it, because you'll see here that Elizabeth Scallon, all she did was like this guy's post, okay? So there's no separate columns to show you likes or something, or so no little feed on the side, like you know, see at Facebook over here on the right, it shows you who liked what, right? Well, that happens right in your newsfeed as if she posted this. So with very little effort, you know, Elizabeth Scallon can take credit for this guy's post, right? So she's not doing anything wrong. It's just the way LinkedIn is designed. So it's showing me that she liked this down here. You know, this one's promoted, and it tells you. So there is advertising on LinkedIn, and it does promote things. I don't know why they're promoting a very fancy limo to me, but maybe that should be encouraging. Here's a case where this guy, Christopher Howard, he shared someone's post, right? And he put in just FYI at the top of his entry. But it's appearing in my newsfeed the same way a like does. And that's just really important to know as you're looking through things. So over here on the left, the top corner is showing me my profile, so that I know I'm logged in as myself, right? I mean, if you share a laptop with somebody, most of you don't have that issue, but at one point I was sharing a laptop with one of my daughters because her computer died, and I'd have to make sure that I was logged in as me and not her. So, you know, and it's just a very quick summary moment up here, you know. You know, what is your title? It's showing up, you know, your background and picture. I do happen to be a premium member. We'll get to that, but that's why it says that there. And then they show me like my last article. It has 187 views, and people doing it, and people who actually looked at the article was 89 people. So that's just what they choose to show me, and also a convenient link for any saved items. So you can save posts just in much the same way, not exactly, but in much the same way as Facebook. Okay, now I happen to have 2 additional pages, and this came up in the context of what we were talking about last Wednesday, that, you know, you have to have your own profile page, but if you have a business, you want to have a business page, and I laid down some basic rules for business pages. We'll get to that in a moment, but that's what this page is here. That's my business. I also happen to be one of the managing administrators for the Illuminating Women LinkedIn page. That's not a group, mind you, that's her business page. So this is Jill's business page for Illuminating Women, okay? And because I help manage it, that's why it's showing up here. If I give up administration of her page, I'll only have 1 item here. I could have 3 items. If I had 3 businesses of my own, there could be 3 pages showing up here. Okay, we'll get to that in a second. Then down here under recent is kind of like any specific pages I've been landing on recently, or groups or whatever, and that's what's showing up over here. You know, last night I attended a virtual happy hour for women in bio in Seattle, and so I had been on their page, scooching around looking. That was the last place I was apparently last night. Down here it lists groups, and what it shows is the groups that I've been active in the most recently. So we'll get to, in another session, we'll talk about what groups are on LinkedIn, and we'll get to, but that's what's showing up here. And down here, I don't know much about events yet. Apparently there's an events feature, and I'm going to try to get to that next week sometime, you know, investigating more about what you can do with events, because it used to be a real deficit on LinkedIn that you couldn't list events on the tool. And then here's hashtags. So I have a big list of hashtags that I follow. You know, I can show you more of them here. There's more than that, and I'm going to need to adjust them because I'm starting to realize some of them are out of date. So LinkedIn is a tool where you can constantly be in here, you can constantly be tweaking, and so the hashtags I'm following drive some of what's showing up in my news feed over here, right? And I can edit those. And I just looked at things and I'm like, oh my goodness, there's things I'm not caring about right now I need to take out of this list. All right, so now on the right side is kind of different. The The right side is sort of a news summary tool section, I guess is the way I'd talk about the sections up on top. So if there's a overall topic that's trending on LinkedIn, LinkedIn seems to be concatenating and pulling together those into collections. So these represent collections of articles on these topics. And it's also showing you what kind of traffic those topics are getting. So for today, which is a Saturday, so kind of mind-blowing, right? You have 77,000 people reading about who's hiring, okay? Then you have 14,000 people reading about students getting coronavirus. You see how this goes, right? So it's telling you how popular the topic is, and when the last news was updated. And apparently there's so much happening on this topic, they're not bothering to show us the timestamp like some of these others. 12 minutes ago, for example, was the last. So 12 minutes ago was the last time that topic had an article opened on it. Virus sows chaos in food chain. Okay. Now today's news and views. This is a little different. This is again LinkedIn curating the news that they think is the most important. Now for me, what's frustrating is this news is not related to my industry. And I'm hoping that they're going to get, and here they tell you, I clicked on the I over here and it tells you day's top professional news stories and conversations. Well, they don't really deal much with my profession, so it's kind of annoying. I mean, I would really like it if I could tweak this to be summarizing the news for my industry. That would save me a lot of time. That doesn't happen right now. Okay, so you understand the basics here. Down here is things that are being promoted to me. You know, pipette calibration, woo! But also the Wall Street Journal wants to sell me a subscription, and I guess they want me to, I don't know what an SLP is, but someone wants me to go back to school. Okay, and then down here in the corner is LinkedIn Learning, okay? And we're not going to get too much into LinkedIn Learning, but they do have a learning platform. All right, so next, let's see, we're going to talk about the difference of business versus professional. So if I click on this, it will take me to my profile, okay? The other way I can get there is up here on the toolbar, the LinkedIn toolbar, not my Windows toolbar. If I clicked on me, it gives me a drop down and it gives me some different options and ways to navigate around what's about me. So, I mean, there's some obvious things in here, and I'm not going to get into these today. They're fairly straightforward and easy to read. It's settings and privacy. There's a lot you can tweak, and that's a whole. I could do a whole session on just how to tweak all that stuff and why, and you should and shouldn't. You know, language. You can change the language that you see LinkedIn in, and down here manage these different aspects. My posts and activity. If I'm someone who's posting jobs. I have done that once before, a long time ago. I haven't used this feature. And then this is manage my company page, manage the Illuminating Women page, right? Okay, I can also go to view profile though. That way I showed you, I can view profile coming from here. That's the other way. So here's my profile. And, you know, I do have a professional headshot. Okay, time for a very quick funny story. I used to have a really good picture of me up there that was taken at my niece's baptism party. And it was with family, and it was a really wonderful event, and I'm her godmother, and it was just really great. And I looked darn good in that picture. And I posted it for years. And finally, I had people who got to know me start to say things like, hey, Christine, we knew we wanted to talk to you because you have a bar in the background of your profile picture. And I'm thinking, oh, no, I've forgotten that behind that wonderful picture that turned out so well. I think I'm standing next to my brother who's like 6'3", and so I just cropped him out of the picture, and it was just me, right? But there were bottles of alcohol in the background of my picture, so that really probably wasn't such a great idea, you know, unless I'm a bartender, right? Then that's a different story. So I realized that, and I had just had professional headshots. These are not like the most ideal headshot I'm ever going to have in my life, but you know what? It looks fine. I look decent. I'm smiling. I look professional. And on LinkedIn, that is what you want. You want a professional looking photograph. You don't have to spring for a headshot if you haven't, but just dress nice and try not to have anything in the background if you can help it. And of course, try not to have it be white in the background because that always looks terrible. But, you know, even outdoors is perfectly acceptable. I've seen some really nice shots that are outdoors. It's just as long as they're not too busy. Okay, and then I do have a background. You have to be, a lot of people don't have backgrounds. I like this one because that's taken from the top of my neighborhood. I don't have a view like that, but some of my neighbors do. But I do, I love it. It's very calming to me, and that's why I picked it. And I think Jill liked it when she saw it. She said something nice about it. So now let's just walk through. There's different sections on a profile. Here's my headline, if you will, and we'll get into that in just a second. Here's the about section, and then featured is kind of whatever my most recent activity has been. And then they give you this little dashboard here, which says, you know, who's been looking at how many people have been looking at my profile, the how many. The who comes when you click on that, and some of that's behind a paywall. Some of it you can get at, some of it's behind a paywall. Then if you become a premium member, then you get access to all of it, obviously. I posted a recent article, so that article has had 89 views. And then this says that when people have been searching for something or some type of person on LinkedIn, I showed up 52 times. And I think that's in the last week, I believe. I think these are numbers for the week. And I think this is the number of total views, right? And this is, I believe, I'm not sure if it's the last week or the last 4 weeks. Anyway, so I also signed up to give career advice. I haven't really been doing much of this lately, but that's what this is. So it says on because I said, they asked me, they pushed something out to me. And I said yes. And so I'm showing up as that's turned on. Anyway, it says here I'm an all-star, and that's sort of a meter that they keep about how active you are on your profile and how many elements you have in your profile. So I've been at this a long time, so I'm an all-star. Woo! The activity section shows a whole list of things, and I'm going to right-click that so I can show you what that does. It's basically tracking all the things, places you go, not the places you go, the things you do on the platform. So all activity is showing everything I've liked, any articles I've posted, when I do posts. So posts are different than articles. We'll get to that. And if I was uploading documents, and I don't really know about this one. This is brand new, and to me it's brand new, and I haven't used it yet. I may have used it accidentally, but we'll get in. I'll try to explore that by the end of the series. So if I go look here and I say I want to only see, if I say all activity, it's going to show all the times I liked something, right? So here you go. This person made a comment on my article post, and I liked their comment, so that's showing up because that like, that's me, right? All right, so now if I go to articles, it's going to only show me the articles I've posted, and I have not been posting articles here. I have that other blog, and those aren't translating in as articles, so unfortunately I don't get credit for those here. But I've posted 2 articles. One was 2017, talking about the healthcare system, and then this one I just did the other day. Posts is different. Posts are, I can take a news piece from anywhere, and if it has a URL, I can post it as news into LinkedIn. Just like you can post anything you want in Facebook, it's the same concept. So we'll get to how you do it. I mean, basically how you do it. I'm going back to my home page. That's the easiest place to do it. Yeah, the easiest place to post something is from your home page. So it says start a post, right? And another option is write an article. So they've got those segregated here. So if you click in the most popular area, you're going to make a post, and that's where you can type whatever you want and put the link, just like Facebook. Write an article basically gives you a blog page. So in theory, you can have your own blog on LinkedIn, and you can connect it up with other things. But this doesn't say it's owned by me. This is just an individual article. It's just that it's associated with me and attributed to me, right? So you can put it, this is to show that you can put a picture up, you know, as your header, and then you write your headline, and then when you start writing here, it writes in block sections, just kind of like WordPress, I guess. So, and you can put in all kinds of all kinds of cool things after that. So let me see. I was going to try to, let me see, get to my, I'm going to try to show you my articles and how they're, what we've been looking at versus, okay, here we go. So if I click on this, it'll show you how I did it, right? So again, we go back here. Oh, shoot. Well, let's just go with this. So this is that graphic I put in for the header, right? And in this case, I did take it off the internet and I made a photo credit. I figured out that this was an AP photo and I credited the photographer. And on LinkedIn, this kind of thing is important. People care. People care because there's a lot of journalists on LinkedIn, right? And there's a lot of photojournalists. And if I was using this person's photo and not properly attributing her, I could get into some trademark issues, right? And not trademark, copyright, sorry. And so it's important that you give people credit, right? So here's my article, and this article is really, really short because what I was trying to get up was these slides that I made. So I made a slide deck, and I'll take you through to where that is. It's in SlideShare, and LinkedIn also bought SlideShare, so they own that platform now too. And anyway, so here's my article, and it's not a normal article. Normally my article would be much longer with more links and references and maybe even photos. You can put pictures in the middle of it, just like a WordPress blog page. But my whole point in putting this article up was to drive attention to my SlideShare posting, which was a deck of slides I did on a guidance that just came out from FDA. And people can download it from this SlideShare platform. And that was what I intended, the free share I'm giving, right? So here I am, you know, if I want to, it starts out small, you can make it full screen, you know, if you want to present or something. And so my reasoning for doing this post was I want people who work in my discipline, who are inside companies, to be able to instantly take this and share this at a company meeting and say, hey guys, here's how we're going to adjust to this new reality. And so I'm giving people a very useful tool. Okay, so that's what that is. This is SlideShare. You can search in SlideShare. SlideShare is an amazing place. We'll get to SlideShare a little bit later, but in the search bar up here, you can search for just about any topic you want. And SlideShare is also connected to this platform called LinkedIn Learning. And we're going to talk about LinkedIn Learning later on, and they are connected, which is great. I have to work on maybe building my brand under LinkedIn Learning so that I can start to get credit for the stuff I'm teaching. Okay, so that's for that. So again, this is SlideShare, right? This is the articles page, and it's called something that starts with a P. Pulse, there it is. They're hiding this name now for some reason. I don't know why, but this is called LinkedIn Pulse. So you'll see that sometimes an attribution, and that's what the Pulse is, all these articles. So if I go here and I can go and get to LinkedIn Pulse. Where are you, Pulse? Well, that's funny. Okay, well, I can't get to LinkedIn Pulse from here, so forget that. All right, next I want to talk about sort of what you do with your profile, okay? So we've talked about the Newsfeed, we've talked about sort of some big chunks of LinkedIn and what exists here. And now I just want to talk about how to do your own profile. So first of all, your profile is not your business, right? So where am I? Here I am. This is me. My profile is not my business. My profile is about me and my career and my history. So when we were on the call last time, we had one person Deborah, who was saying she's a chef, but she also has a history in the HR world, right? Or was it loans? I can't remember. Anyway.
No,
it
was
also
another person. She was in the jewelry business.
Mary's in the jewelry business and also HR, is that right? Okay. So, you know, and she's trying to grow her jewelry business while she's still functioning in the HR profession, right? And that's a perfect example. And Marcia, I'm sure you have skills that would pertain to your personal profile that are not a part of what you're doing as a business at the moment. So it's important that you edit the right parts. So up here, they each have these little blue pencils, and it allows you to edit each section, and it is a per section. It's done in blocks. And so headline is something you just type in, and it's whatever you want it to be. So what is the first thing you want people to see about you? And for me, I'm driving to my business, so I'm principal consultant at Gish Consulting. That's what I want to drive. And then I get a choice on what I show as my current position. And that's because later on when we talk about your work history, you can have 3 things that are current. You can be working at 3 different job items that are current, and that's part of their awareness of the gig economy, right? So my current position, I could choose from principal consultant or guest lecturer at University of Washington, because at the moment, those are the only 2 I have as current. So it's being prompted from the way I've listed those 2. Education, I can show any education item that I've entered into my top headline, and I'm choosing University of Washington because that's the last degree I got. Okay, so then, I do pick a region, and that's probably good, unless you're you do have to pick a country. You don't have to pick a postal code and a city state. I do, and I could say Seattle area too if I wanted to. I think I will actually. I don't remember why I had set that to Bellevue, but there we go. So then you also have to pick an industry, and there's a lot of industries to choose from. There used to be very few. They've been adding. I used to be under health and wellness, and there's nothing wrong with health and wellness, but that's a real stretch to say that I'm in health and wellness. This is my industry right here. So I finally have that listing, and it helps curate what I see and who's offered to me to connect with, right? Okay, and then the URL. It comes with a default URL for your page, and I'm just realizing that's very interesting. My profile URL, there it is. Okay, this is I've never seen this page laid out like this before. It's a change. So up here at the top, it says profile URL, and we were taught to edit this and to make sure that it's as short as possible. So you can go in and put in your own URL for this. Mine is linkedin.com/n/Zomorodian, and that's what I put in so that it's an easier find. There's some kind of algorithms that get driven by that. If you have a popular name, you might not be able to put in your first initial last name or even first name, last name. You might have to just stick with the default they give you, but that's a thing you can edit. Okay. Discard. I don't want to change anything. Actually, let me just talk about this before I go. You don't have to put your phone number in. I do, but if you're not connected to me, you can't see my phone number. So it is in there, but I went through security and privacy. Remember those tabs we showed, and I set what people can see before they are my first line connection. Okay, so before that, you can't see my phone number. But once you're connected to me, you can, and I kind of like that. I would never put an address here unless I had a brick and mortar business address. So no, you don't want to put that in. I do have a Twitter account. It's driven from my business page, so it's not letting me edit here. It says Gish Consulting right there, but it won't let me edit it because it's not driven by my personal profile page. It's driven from my business page. Okay, all right. And your birthday. Doesn't hurt to put your birthday in. There's no year, just your month and day, and then it allows people to wish you a happy birthday, and sometimes you can tell who's interested in working with you by their interest level. Great. Okay, discard. All right, about is probably the most important section in your whole profile because this is all freehand text. You get to write whatever you want about yourself. So in other words, if you are in the gig economy and you have 3 businesses, you can make that clear. And I'm going to go to my friend Joe Hage's page to show you what I mean by that. So Joe Hage has done a lot of different things in his career, almost all of them in the marketing world. And he runs a group that I'm a member of, and I lecture at, he also hosts conferences, and I lecture at some of his conferences. He has 350,000 followers on LinkedIn, and it's not an accident. He's built this, he's cultivated this feed, he's cultivated his image on LinkedIn, and he's getting to the point that the powers that be at LinkedIn actually listen to him when he gets cranky about something. So that's kind of cool to watch. So here is his headline, right? And he has extended his headline in a way that I haven't chosen to do. And he included through his contact stuff, there's no phone number. If Joe had his phone number here, he would never get any sleep. He'd be called 24/7, right? He does, but he lists his work location, you know, and his work preference, that he likes to work remotely. I guess because you'll see one of his businesses is he has an active marketing business and he's selling himself and his services. And he's making it clear to employers that look at him that I work remotely. I'm not going to come sit in your, you know, in your office cube. Contact preference. Joe accepts free messages and business inquiries from any LinkedIn member. In other words, you're not going to get my email, people. You're not going to get my phone number, but you can message me. Okay. And he also lists the services that he provides as a business. And I'm behind. I have not done this. I learn a lot from Joe, and I'm learning today. Oh, look at that. I need to list my services provided. Okay, so then highlight, his is different because he hasn't posted an article recently. It's showing the connections that we have mutually. And so you can always see mutual connections with someone. Some people shut down their profile so that you can't see the rest of their connections. And that is an important thing to do for some people. I usually don't, because I like to kind of show off who I'm connected to. So I keep mine open, and so far nobody's abused that recently. Anyway, actually they have abused it, but I've managed to shut it down. So then this is about, this list, in his highlights, it lists a company that I'm following, Medtronic, and it tells me that Joe knows 15 people at Medtronic if I want to get him to help me talk to them. This is about a job search, right? Or about marketing specifically to a company, right? That's what that is. So that's why we happen to have this company in common, that we follow it and that we both know people working there. So that's what this tab. I could show more, and it's going to show me more highlights of Joe. Oh, look, he can help me find 10 people at Phillips, and it shows that we belong to these 4 groups together. So that's our relationship. I guess this is like a relationship highlight. There you go. The about section. This is super important. This is the one that I had here, and mine is much simpler. Mine is right here. I give a very, because I'm really focused on my industry at this point, and that's all I do. And so I'm giving a lot of bang for the buck. Each one of these phrases is something really important when someone is searching, and that's why the search function hits me a lot, is because I've listed things and keywords and regulation names in here that people look for, right? And so I make sure that I get hit. I get a hit when they're looking for these things. I also give it a Twitter handle down here because it's kind of free, right? Joe's got a completely different style here. Joe is works in 3 different capacities. They're all in the marketing industry of sorts, but he has 3 very different jobs. He's a marketing consultant. He has his own marketing firm. He's a thought leader, meaning that he leads this giant group called, Medical Devices Group Community, right? And it's on LinkedIn. It's also off LinkedIn, and that's a whole story I won't get into now. He sells a premium platform for his group, and with 350,000 people, you can imagine a lot of us do pay him to be on his platform, right? So he's figured out the technology to have a LinkedIn group, and then off channel he has his own page called Medical Devices Group.net, I think. Anyway, and you pay him, and he has a paywall, and you pay him, and then you're in. Okay, so the third thing he does is he's a conference host. So he has very clearly laid out his 3 different jobs, right? And each person, the way they do that would be different depending on what you want to emphasize and depending on how you choose to lay it out. But just because you have, in his case, they're all 3 in the marketing world in general. Even conference is a little on the edge of it. That's really an industry item. But his role is thought leader, actually. That's what drove him to have the conference, right? So they're related. Your businesses don't have to be related. They could be disparate. In the case of a disparate collection, I would make the headline talk about the person, up here, this headline under about would talk about the person and sort of who are you in total as a person, and then maybe talk about your different ventures and maybe talk about entrepreneurialism in that first entry up here to explain what, kind of give the lead in as to why you're in different businesses. But it's not unacceptable anymore at all to be in different businesses and to show that off on LinkedIn. In Joe's case, he has such a following and such a barrage of communication that he ended up putting up an FAQ so that he can drive people over here to just answer their basic questions instead of making him nuts. And I may or may not know someone who runs a women's network. You should probably do that. Anyway, down here is featured. So it's showing what his featured posts are, or his featured activity, I guess you'd say. And below that, it even shows his activity. Okay, and then he gets down to experience. And what I want to point out here is that he has 2 big jobs that lead to business pages that are up to the present moment, right? So here he is, medicaldevicesgroup.net. He marks himself as chairman. He made that title up because that's what he wants to be, right? And because it shows through present, it's appearing at the top of his experience section. He also has this company, Medical Marcom, and he does marketing for medical devices, right? And so that's present. And then now we're getting into his actual work history as an employee, right? So he was director of marketing communications for cardiac science, and before that, this to me was an obvious like career hiccup. He was a associate vice president of marketing for Safeco Insurance. Well, that's a different industry, dude. But maybe I'm wrong. He was transitioning industries because before that he was at Campbell Soup Company. That's not a medical device company, right? But anyway, you can see how he has capitalized on his work history and his businesses to show you that he is, fully active in these 2 businesses. And then here's his work history. Now notice, let's see, how did he do it? His emphasis is a little different than mine. Okay, so he has thought about what he did at Safeco and he has encapsulated it. There's nothing chronological here. They're not naming the projects per se. They're talking about his impact on the company, right? Now, Joe's in his late 50s, okay? So this is how he's handling his job experience, right? By what he accomplished while he was there. Here he is at Campbell Soup. Again, he's taking the same strategy with describing his history there. This shows you that he tried to make a go of his marketing, his Marcom company, medical Marcom company. And at 2004, it was clearly not working for him, and so he got a real job at Campbell Soup, right? So there you go. And I think this is where he cut his teeth. He was a brand manager for Kraft Foods, okay? So again, now this one, he didn't do that strategy he did with the others, right? Where he segged up his different experiences, right? He's just kind of telling you what he was in charge of, and he's not making a big deal about it because he was obviously a junior associate at that point, right? Okay, so that's how Joe handled his. Let's talk for a second about how you get these little icons to show up, okay? So if I go in here, I click, see I'm hovering, and I click on this, it's going to take me to my business page. Now, if I worked for a big company, they also have a big business page, but I did a branding package, and so I do have a landing page for my business and, a logo, right? And so it brings me here. Right now, I'm seeing it as an administrator. So here's my business page. There's home. I could look at my content. I could look at the analytics for like anything else. I mean, if you get in the back end of your Facebook page or your Twitter page or your Instagram page, it's the same kind of thing. They can show you what the activity is, right? But here's the articles that are trending in my industry. That's what it's showing here. So this is content that I could promote. I still don't understand how they're doing all this, but anyway, let's just go back to the home page. Here's the home page for my business as an admin view, okay? And so you can do all kinds of things from here. All your little tools are available. I can pop over here to look at analytics. you know, I can invite these people to follow my page, my business page, and it shows me this with the guts of it. And it's letting me know that I pinned this article, right? And then again, I have different filters, my page update, or I could do it by documents. I could do it by, well, that's new. Okay, there you go. Every time I come in here, there's something new in LinkedIn land. Okay, this is what's important is that I want to, up here it says view as member. This is what people see. So when you're done tweaking, you want to go over and hit, you know, view as, you know, as a LinkedIn member, and it'll show you what my page looks. So, you know, if you click on my profile, that little icon for my business, it'll take you to this. This is what people will see, right? And they'll see, I pinned this post. This is me giving a co-lecture a year ago, and that's pinned up there because I want people to see it. And then I have my article that I wrote showing up in the feed, and some other articles that I posted as my business. So you can post on LinkedIn as your business, and you can post as your own self. So it's kind of like on Facebook, right? You can post from your page on Facebook, and you can post from your personal profile. Okay, let's see, what else I want to talk about? I talked about it, but okay, one really important thing, we're running out of time here soon, I wanted to talk about was, let me see, where am I? Okay, so this is back to the landing page, the home page, right? And if I go back to myself here, I want to just talk a little bit about what you say when you post jobs. So your experience should always parallel the content on your resume, and everybody should have a resume, with a few exceptions. If you have a business that's only about you and direct marketing to individuals, and that's an exception I can't speak to, but for most of us, so I'm a consultant, right? I don't have an employer. I don't go looking for regular jobs, but I do have a situation often when I'm trying to sell my services where someone will say, hey, send me your CV or send me your resume. And I have to have one to send them, right? You have to make darn sure that your resume and your LinkedIn profile are in sync, because I've actually audited companies when they make a claim package of who they're bringing on. We had one scenario, I was working for a big client, and they felt they're getting screwed over on a big engineering project. It was a $6 million engineering project, and there was some funny stuff going on. And long and short of it, on the initial summary profile of who's going to be on the project, they misrepresented the credentials of one of their key guys, and he was not performing adequately. We all kind of knew it, and they sort of unleashed me to audit the project, and I ended up finding out that what the guy claimed on the sheet was in fact not what his degree was. So they clawed back $1.6 million on that contract for breach of contract. And what it basically came down to was we proved they'd lied about some key fundamentals. So that's one example. People in HR, people in recruiting world, others, they all can check on you and see who you are. So for people who are writing things, it's not about malintent. In that case, example I gave was malintent. 95% of people don't have malintent. You're just not thinking and you're not paying attention, but they do have to stay synchronized. So you'll notice here, like most of my entries are very, very short. You know, I took a different strategy than Joe. My resume is more in depth. It's very parallel, but it's more in depth. I chose to not advertise a whole lot about my work other than my current position. And it's not because I'm trying to hide something. It's just because I just don't need all of it out here. And sometimes I end up tweaking how my resume is written. You can adjust your resume for every single submission you make with it. And therefore, I don't want to have to constantly be checking back, oh my gosh, is that what my item says in LinkedIn? So these are very brief. These are very brief to just give you the very top edge of what I do. So that allows me a little more flexibility in my wording choice in my resume, right? Now, you can see here that when I said it was letting me pick 2 as my current position, and that's because both of these say present, right? They both are up to the present time. And so that's why I had that choice of which one I chose as my current job to show way up here in my, up in my headline. Where is it? well, in this view, it's not showing, but somewhere it says principal consultant at Gish Consulting, and then it shows this is my employer, principal consultant, Gish Consulting. So it's defaulting to that one, right? Okay, I have volunteered a lot over the years, and I was having trouble because people I worked with in volunteer organizations wanted me to write references for them on LinkedIn, and they wanted to write nice things about me. And in the past, you couldn't write it for volunteer activities. We'll get down to that. So I ended up clustering all my volunteer activities and putting it up here in my job section so that it appears as an employer that people can comment on. It's kind of anachronistic, but there we are. So anyway, you can see my work history here. Some of these I created myself, right? And in times when I was consulting and I did not yet have a brand, that's what's here, right? Then you get down to education. So first of all, you don't have to list every job you have ever had. You absolutely do not have to list all your jobs. You can curate this employment listing to show what you want to show, right? I mean, you know, I was an ice cream soda jerk scooper for years when I was a teenager and in college, and there's no reason that needs to be on my LinkedIn profile, right? And et cetera, et cetera. We all have the et ceteras in our lives by now, so they don't have to be on here. I do have a long list because my range as a consultant is pretty broad, and everything that shows up on this list is related to something I'm claiming I can do. Okay, so I am going back to 1985, and for most people that's not a good idea unless you're like a senior something or other with a really specific history. But in my case, that job was my experience in the hospital, and I have to talk about that right now with COVID because that's one of my selling points, is that I understand how a clinical laboratory operates. So I've taken a risk, and I'm showing that 1985, I was in a clinical laboratory. Yeah. So education, the only two that have a date on them are the master's degree I did recently, like 10 years ago, and the fact that I went through this education for training on all these standards in my little world. And that's really recent, and I want to make a point of that, right? Everything else does not have a date. My degree, any additional training and coursework I did, and I'm not just taking credit for my degree here, I'm taking my that's my undergraduate degree. I got that in the end of 1984. I am not going to talk about that to anybody. They don't need to know that. Like, no, not your business. Here, you know, this is a collection. I've taken a lot of certificate courses and little update courses, and I don't know why American Society for Quality doesn't have a listing on LinkedIn yet. They're behind the curve for sure. They should. Someday I'll go check, and they'll have a little icon page for a page I can connect to, and I'll put it up there. But that didn't stop me from listing it, right? Okay, and also American Medical Writers Association. I did a lot of coursework there. I need to take credit. I've got a technical writing certificate program. I could put dates around a couple of these, but because I didn't want to put a date around my BA, I just chose not to. So there you go. And no, you don't have to put your high school up here. People do. When someone's fresh out of college, if you had a great high school experience and you want to promote it, then you can say, and when my kids were coming out of college, they did list their high school because they were networking with fellow high school students from their alumni. Okay, so here's my licenses and certifications. You can have all these weird sections, and I'll show you the whole list of sections. So if you have stuff like you took a certificate in whatever it was, and it's like a recognized thing, I mean, you do need to limit this one to sort of things that are recognized, right? But for people that have more experience beyond what they did as a degree, then this is a good place to put them, right? If it created something tangible. And again, licenses and certifications are tangible things. It's not coursework. If you did coursework, you need to create it up here under education. So volunteer experience. I've done some really significant volunteer work, like I'm on the advisory circle of Illuminating Women, and I also sit on the standards committee for cannabis for this American Society of Technical Mechanical Standards, so ASTM. And then I also list, in the past, I was on the executive board, and then, so you don't want to list everything you did, but in my case, I was exec board, including I was like the president, you know, Now I don't say, well, I do, there you go. So it says I was on the executive board of this group. Before that, I was a president of this group. So only things that I feel are going to be advantageous to my career get listed here, right? So kind of knowing that I'm in the arts is a nice thing. It gives some people a sense of comfort. When I talk to these companies in Seattle that are connected to UW Global Health, I like them to know that I was an international volunteer and that I spent time doing medical things in Tanzania, right? So that's important for them, and it shows that I've been out of the country, and so I list that one, right? I was a Girl Scout leader for a long time, and I had a very successful troop that made waves in its day. And so for people that work I've had people talk to me, hey, you were a Girl Scout leader? And that's like the beginning of our conversation. They end up being a client. Oh, did I drop out? Can you hear me? Okay, good. It just showed that my call dropped. That's just so weird. Okay, whatever. All right, you can hear me. So great, I'll keep going. Thumbs up, right? Okay. Anyway, so you can play with this, and if it's a big organization and you can get the little lovely icon, that's helpful, but don't let it stop you. I mean, like you see, I did a lot of entries here that are not listed on LinkedIn, but they're important. Let me see, what am I? Work history, education. Okay, so to close out, I'm just going to talk about connections. So let's go back up here to the home page, right? So we always start from our home page. Oh, look at that. Even though it went here, it didn't take me to the first. It wants me to refresh again from this button. Isn't that weird? But I'm not going to because I think her post is really interesting. Okay, so up here it says my network. That's your friend list, basically, right? So here it's going to show you on the left how many connections I have. I have 1,400 connections on LinkedIn. I no longer have teammates. I don't know what that means, actually. That's weird. That's new. That's a new feature to look at. And contacts, I don't know what the difference is. This is all very new, so let's see what that is. But I also follow people I'm not connected to. For example, Bill Gates, Melinda Gates, the CEO of a bunch of different companies that I follow. A lot of thought leaders. I follow mostly thought leaders. You know, you can follow whoever you want. You know, if there's someone you're trying to talk into buying your services, if it's a company that you really aspire to have a closer relationship with them and you want to know their thinking and their activity that they're projecting, then you can follow people. It's great. And if they're article writers, that's another type of person you might follow if it's the kind of articles you're interested in, because you don't have to connect with everybody. Okay, and also some people won't connect with you. So I have the cases of some big hot shots who like haven't, you know, maybe once I tried to connect with them and like my invite got ignored, or they just didn't see it, and I'm just following them in some cases. And then I do belong to 53 groups. That's a lot. I probably need to go cull again. We'll get the groups another day. But this shows you all these kind of things on your network. The most important thing is your connections, okay? And like here's this guy that I'm probably going to ignore him. I've been waiting to see why he's showing up. He didn't send me a message. So this person, okay, I'm not going to accept this person's invitation. And I can get into why a little bit later, but I don't know them, and I don't think that they're attached to anybody I need to be attached with. This guy's a finance guy. I don't need another finance guy, and there's a lot of scamming going on right now with COVID-19, so I'm going to hit ignore. Now, I did already at some point send him a message and say, hi, how can I help you? Because this is about etiquette. When you want to connect with someone, if it's someone you know really well, you can just go ahead and send them a request. If it's someone you don't know well, you need to send them a message to explain why you're connecting. So ignore. I'm going to ignore him. And now it's giving, I can just X out of it, or I can say I don't know him, and I'm going to say I don't know him because I really want to shut it down. Okay, connection. So here is the suggested thing. It's very similar to the idea in Facebook. It tries to suggest people for you to connect to. These are because I'm connected to people who are connected to these people. So it's suggesting them to me. And in the beginning, when you're doing LinkedIn, it's probably worth it to spend a little bit of time here and say, oh, I know who that is. You know, yeah, I want to go ahead and connect with them. But this is what I want to get to. So back a while ago, the rule used to be if you were a full-time employee on a career track, you never wanted to have more than 500. You never wanted to hit the magic 500 number on LinkedIn. And those rules are all gone. There's gig economy has blown away a lot of those rules. But I will say that having 1,425 connections is a lot for most people. And it's because of what I do. If I was just doing gig work or I worked for a single employer, it probably would be a little bit eye-popping that I have 1,400 connections. Most people don't need that. So here are people that it's sorted by recently added. And I'm at the point now where I do reject a lot of people, but I also link in with a lot of people. So I look at what they do and what their industry is, and I try to make an alignment and a decision. Anyway, and there's a lot to connecting, and there's a lot of etiquette. So I think the main etiquette thing is, so let's go back to that last page, and just let's say that I wanted to connect with someone in the prompt list. So let's say, let me pick someone I'm probably going to do it with anyway.
And remember, etiquette is going to be one of the things we're going to touch on the third one.
Yeah, we're going to get deep into etiquette. But basically, I'm just trying to find someone I want to connect with. I don't know. I'll do this student, the statistics student. So if I say connect, oh, that wasn't supposed to do that way. Okay, I'm going to click on her profile, okay? And I'm going to say, well, do I want to connect with her? So now I'm going to do my little investigation, right? Well, it gives me an opportunity right here to message her. And also, up until last week, it gave you an opportunity to, if you said connect, and it would let you add a note. It said add a note. That has changed. Isn't that interesting? So in this case, I would probably follow this up and say connection. Hi, you know, Yinji. I see that you are at UW. I would like to connect. Right? Now, and I can answer it, put my name in, Christine, right? So that way, that's my etiquette piece, right? That I'm telling her, you know, hey, I'm not just coming out of the blue. You know, this is why you got a connection request from me. So just a little bit of etiquette. We'll get deeper into etiquette in the next session. So that's really it. I mean, I think everyone, you've seen sort of the basic overall of how we use LinkedIn. You know, there's a lot more here. I'm just going to, as a little taste for the next phase, I'm going to say over here under the work drop down, there's all kinds of products and how to advertise. So you can puff up your shares and your ads on LinkedIn, very much like Facebook ads. We're going to be talking about groups another time and how to use SlideShare. And so some of these are related to the fact that I have a premium account. So Insights and ProFinder and Salary, those three, and also Post a Job, all four of these are premium related things. We also next time going to get into learning. So just a very fast peek. There is a whole learning world over in LinkedIn, and there's little mini courses. And you can search for them. There's a browse function. We'll get into that. There's a search function. You can label things to come back to them as my learning and set deadlines. It's very, very cool, and it's free at this point. So yeah, you want to learn to code? You can do it right in LinkedIn for free. Now, maybe some of these are charging. I haven't seen any charge yet. We'll get into like paywalls and things later for our next set. Is that session 2? We're going to do learning.
Yeah. Well, yes, we're going to touch on learning, because this is what, you know, again, Christine, what you've done here is, I think people can see what a powerful and necessary and valuable tool LinkedIn is, especially once we come out of sheltering in place, where businesses have lost and people have lost jobs, and this connection on this level is going to be so important beyond any other social media platform. And this has been great. This was part one. You did a beautiful job outlining. Is there any last minute things you wanted to say before we stop the recording?
Gosh, I think the one last minute thing I'd say is everyone needs to be careful with the assumptions about what's going on in the economy and what's not right now. My world is exploding. People are having to force themselves to take time off and force themselves to have downtime. We're going nuts because we're connected to healthcare and logistics. It's crazy time. So people who are at the moment without work, there are ways that you could probably find work, and you can certainly get on LinkedIn and start to figure out what's trending and what's happening and who's hiring, and see if you have any of those skill sets. I mean, I think that's an important takeaway for women who are kind of in the gig economy here, is that there's a lot you could do. It might not be what you want to do. So what you want to do after we come through all this social isolating and pandemic times, that's one topic and set of goals. But you can also have short-term goals, and you could definitely find work right now if you have the right skill sets and you figure out how to just minimally package them. And Jill, we have to talk about another topic, which is work platforms for the gig economy. And that's a whole nother thing. I mean, 2 of my last gigs, the last 6, have come off of a platform called Upwork. And there's a lot of tools out there, and that's one of them. And they all have rules, and they all have ways of functioning, and it would be a benefit to talk about those too. So again, LinkedIn is important. So even when I have Upwork, you put your whole name in there. Well, people come search for me in LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is not just about applying for jobs. It's a reference place that people can come and learn about who you are. And any single time that somebody wants me to hire them, or even any time I'm about to pick up a client, the first thing I do is go to look for them on LinkedIn. It's my #1 sleuthing activity before I even do a Google search. I come look what they're presenting to the world, right?
Right.
So that's my takeaway, is that this is not about the future. This is about right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I really appreciate that. Okay, we have gone through our time here, and this was quite extensive. Excellent. We've learned a lot. And before, Marcia, don't jump off yet, I'm going to stop the recording, and we can touch base with some questions. And again, Christine, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for all of you who popped in. You can continue to go to Illuminating Women LLC Facebook page and on LinkedIn as we continue to work that, as well as our website, illuminatingwomen.com. Hope you're having a wonderful rest of your day. Keep that tool shed sharpen, and stay safe, and we will see you when we're all ready to get out and get together again. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.